to open this up for Q&A if anybody has any questions with Julia's permission, if you would like to ask her anything.
So I had a question that a lot of us are a little hesitant to get involved because they have a fear that somebody is watching you, you might get into some watch list and stuff. It's a very common fear. Do you want to say something about that? How can we overcome it? And if there is a reality and there is a watch list in which we can be, added.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And we hear that a fair amount from a wide spectrum of communities with which we work. And so I think I would say two things. One is we have to hold that fear. That fear is based in something, right? That fear is based in some reality. And so it won't work if we dismiss that fear. We have to sit together as people of different colors and different backgrounds and acknowledge that fear together. And certainly that fear impacts some people more than others, right? I sit in a position of incredible privilege the way this country works, by the color of my skin and by my background. And so those of us who sit in those positions of privilege and power need to understand that fear and think about what role we play in holding the people who might do those kinds of things. I mean, watch lists accountable, but also sitting with brothers and sisters and thinking about what that fear means. So that's one thing. We have to hold it together. The second thing is, we do believe that the bigger the tent is, the more diverse it is, the more we're working together, and the more that our issues are linked, the more protection we provide to each other. So we were working recently with a community of Latino immigrants in a far northern California town. Very similar fear, because we were to go up and do immigration civil rights work and immigration legal clinics for them. And they were worried about having any signage or anything that showed that they were working with OneJustice or thinking about their rights. And unlike the Central Valley, where there are now Latino Congress members and mayors and people in power that come from that community who are either first generation or themselves immigrants, this community was completely controlled by sort of traditional California white mayor, white city council, and so they didn't have political power to draw on. They didn't have allies already existing. And so we worked with them a lot about how can we show up in a way that respects that fear, but also provides them with some protection. And ultimately what we did is we built a very broad network of other nonprofits and county government and others who were willing to say, this is important, this is going to happen here. And I think that serves as a small model. The bigger we build the tent, the more people we're standing together on issues, this kind of coalition mobilization, the more we can address that fear. But it's real and it's hard, right?
I have a question. You mentioned that there's some of the things you were not ready for. Going out, that you were not ready for what was going to happen after you took over and you went did some of the things. Let me ask you this: now that you know, do you have a strategy of going ahead of him or preempting it instead of him, instead of following him, the other way around?
Yes, that's such a great question. Can you all hear me all right without the microphone, or should I use the microphone?
Such a great question in terms of did we learn our lesson? So yes, although it's hard to predict. I mean, that's one of the things that we think is our hypothesis is that it's purposeful, is sort of to keep our communities off center. We've now developed a system that we're actually calling sort of half-baked models. You can go to the grocery store and buy pre-made cookies ready to just pop in the oven. We're thinking about it like that. So we actually have multiple different project plans going, but we only take them so far. So we have sort of half-prepared models on mass deportations, and we have half-prepared models on highly targeted ICE activity. We have half-baked models on another travel ban. We have half-baked models on sort of what's our role in H-1 visa stuff, or some of the executive orders that were leaked around access to public benefits for very low-income people. And so we're trying more and more to have
plans that could be deployed if they become reality. It's a resource-intensive thing, because it means that we have to have different staff or different organizations sort of going on that all at once. So it's like a balancing act. We can't get spread too thin, but we don't want to get caught off guard like the way that we did for the travel ban.
Just a follow-up, are you going on the offensive? How are you going on the offensive?
Yes. So I would say there's a couple of things. One is I would just, we were talking about this over lunch, I would draw to your attention, there's a marvelous organization in Washington, D.C. called CREW, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. And so a lot of us are in the nonprofit community are supporting them, and they're basically suing the Trump administration over every single ethical violation that exists. Every single member of the Trump family, and all of their business holdings. They're just filing Freedom of Information Acts, requests and litigation on everything, and suing them over everything. So that's one aspect where the nonprofit community is getting very offensive and making him pay, hopefully. On our side, what we're really focusing on in terms of the what we think of as offensive is the preventative side of immigration, which includes talking to all of you, right? Like, we're getting out much more, we're not sitting in our desks as much, we're trying to build coalitions actively in advance, and then a lot of know your rights information. How does the Constitution apply to people? What do you do in some immigration circumstances? And trying to do much more knowledge building in communities.
Yeah, Julia, thank you very much for you and your organization, all the effort that you guys did. It's great. You were saying that we have eyes on the LAX and the SFO. What about the other airports all over the country? Do we have also, is the ban muted right now or still happening?
Oh, that's such a great question. So one of the things that grew organically in the days and weeks after the travel ban was each large international airport in the country was assigned a point of contact organization. And so we were the point of contact for LAX, SFO, Oakland, and San Jose. But there was also a point of contact for Chicago and Boston and Dulles and all around the country. And so in the heat of things, we were having daily phone calls between all of the airports so that we could compare what was going on and what was Chicago doing that we could adopt. And that structure has stayed in place. We now only have monthly phone calls, but we still have monthly phone calls. And at the end, actually, before the second travel ban, it became international in scope. So we had volunteer attorneys whose job was to go to airports in the UK and Spain and Germany and Paris, sort of the hotspot transfer spots, and advise people on the ground in case they were stuck there. Ultimately, because the courts acted so quickly, that they weren't needed, but they were prepared to go. So we were having calls with them on the phone as well. So we were telling them what we would want SFO travelers to know if they were stuck in Frankfurt again. And so that structure exists. So maybe that's also another sort of offensive and lesson learned, is that we're not letting that structure collapse. We are assuming it might be needed again.
Thanks, Julie. Julia, given the executive orders that we've heard about and you just talked about, do you think the executive orders supersede the provisions of the Constitution as far as the rights to an attorney and fair trial is concerned?
That's great. So I would say we believe that there are definitely limits to what the president can do under the Constitution through executive order. And in fact, that was applied to our communities, the immigration communities, when President Obama tried to create a new program for the presidents of the parents of U.S. citizens and get them on a deferred, meaning they couldn't be deported status. Texas and other states sued the Obama administration successfully, and that program wasn't put into place. So we know that there are limits. Sometimes we don't like those limits, but as lawyers, we believe that there are limits, right? And we believe that the courts are the correct part of our government to decide where those limits are. So that's one piece. So yes, there are definitely limits. The second piece, which I just want to flag, is that we do have concerns about, is that there's this thing called expedited removal, which already exists in US immigration law. And the idea is, if you meet the requirements for expedited removal, you do not get to go through immigration court. You have no due process to a court system at all, and a judge. Under the Obama administration, the way they used that, it was basically within 2 weeks of your illegal entry into the country, so you had to come across the border and not through a checkpoint, and if you were caught within 100 miles of the border. And what they did was they basically created sort of a legal fallacy. They treated you as if you were still on the other side of the border. And so no court process, no immigration judge, nothing. You're just removed right across the border. What one of the executive orders hints at is expanding that idea of expedited removal throughout the entire country and to anyone who can't prove that they haven't been here for at least 2 years. Now, they have to do some stuff, they have to publish it if they're gonna, that is not effective now. They have to do some more steps legally before that would become effective, but we think they do have the power to do that. Our community will sue them right away, we'll tie it up in the courts, but we think ultimately they do have the power to do that. So one thing that we are advising folks is that if you are here without legal status, and you've been here more than 2 years, start putting your papers in order so that if you had to, you could prove that you've been here 2 years or longer. That is what gets you the right to be in immigration court.
Hi, so I understand you're more about immigration and things of that nature. There are a lot of retired, immigrant Americans here.
Yes.
A lot of us, we can afford to pay, but we have difficulty finding lawyers willing to go up against a government, even a local government agency, because either they think they might need them in future or they live in the community. Do you have a referral service for issues like that?
Specifically for immigration or for other issues?
No, for other issues as well.
Yeah.
I know you're a nonprofit about civil rights, but sometimes retired people are more likely to get their civil rights violated because there's a dismissive attitude. They're old, they stand in the way of progress, or they're getting in somebody's way where profit is involved. So, do you have any suggestions?
Yep. So this is one of the, so I would say 2 things. I can give you a couple of referral sources, but then I want to acknowledge something about the way the capitalist part of our legal system works. So a couple referrals. Every local bar association has what's called a lawyer referral service, and that is monitored by the State Bar of California for quality purposes. So it's a reliable referral source. And for the lawyers to be able to get referrals through that source, they have to meet certain criteria. So it's a way of basically not getting scammed, right? By either someone who pulls themselves out as a lawyer and isn't, or is by a lawyer that's having some problems with their license. So whichever side of the East Bay that you're on, the local bar association, they'll have a lawyer referral service. That's where I start. Like if I need some kind of lawyer, that's who I call. And usually they will give you a preliminary appointment for like $30, just so the lawyer can take a sense of what's going on and give you some advice right off the bat. So that's a great place to go. For seniors, there should be in every county a nonprofit that provides senior legal services at no cost. It's federal money that comes through the state that goes to the county for there to be a senior legal services provider. So like in San Jose, it's Senior SALA, Senior Assistance. Thank you. Senior Adult Legal Assistance, SALA. And I forget who it is on this side of the bay. It might be Bay Area Legal Aid's office here. San Mateo. Then it's Legal Aid Society of San Mateo County. They're the senior services provider. So they're the civil legal aid, but also the seniors provider. But I will say, this is a place about, in our legal system that really bothers me, which is that if you are below the poverty line, you can get legal aid lawyers, right? If you are wealthy, you can afford a lawyer on the marketplace. If you are middle income, because let's be real about what lawyers charge. If you are middle income, most folks can't afford a lawyer. And that is like a justice desert in our system. And so there are a bunch of models that we've been working on recently. The idea of creating sort of incubators to have lawyers that don't charge at that market but are more community-based. There's 3 of them in the state, and they're in the tiny little pilot stages. But we think it's actually a political problem, because until middle-income folks have access to a legal system that works for them, why should they care that poor people get lawyers? Right? So it's an excellent question. It is absolutely a place where the system breaks down.
Julia, in Santa Clara County, every senior center has a day specified for seniors to come and get free legal advice.
Oh.
So they can just go to any senior center and sign up for I think it's a Friday evening, every week. So they can just go there and talk to them.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Oh, and I should also say there's a wonderful website called lawhelpcalifornia.org. lawhelpca.org, I think is the URL. And they have a lot of lay information, so if you need to understand how divorce works, or if you need to understand how a durable power of attorney works. And then they also have referrals. Some of these referrals in a database where you can enter your zip code and see the different legal resources that exist in that zip code. Thank you.
Julia, thank you for coming here. Really appreciate it and all the work you've done. I had an interesting experience in Frankfurt before the Muslim ban. I was boarding on an American airline plane, and the girl at the ticket counter started asking me what I was doing in Frankfurt, where I had been, where I had gone. And I'd gone there to attend a textile exhibition. But I'd come from Pakistan and I was on my way to the US. So I thought that was I wasn't ready for it, otherwise I would have reacted probably differently. What my question is that was just an airline ticket counter, woman that was sitting there. But a lot of problem is faced by citizens that are crossing the border, especially I think from Canada is really bad, where your iPhones get checked, your iPads get checked, and you might be put up in lock. And the immigration individuals' licenses are very, very aggressive. Is anything, are you guys looking at that at all?
Yeah, and I will say one thing that I think the nonprofit civil rights community is grappling with is so many other bad practices came to light by having lawyers stationed in the airports and watching the Customs and Border Protection agents. And what do we do about that now? Right? Those bad behaviors that were not specifically about enforcing the travel ban, but raise a lot of concerns around civil liberties. We saw many folks sent back out of countries that were not addressed by the travel ban under circumstances that legally we thought looked pretty shaky, but we didn't have a legal hook to do anything about them in that moment. We also have people being asked about not just religious issues, but do you believe in science? It was just bizarre, some of the questions that were being asked across the country. Specifically as to devices, not as much at SFO. I have to say that looking between the 2 airports, San Francisco, the Customs and Border Protection agents came around more quickly than LAX did. We had serious problems at LAX much longer than SFO. And at SFO after the first weekend, we didn't have any complaints about people's devices being taken away, but we did at SFO almost all the way through until the Washington court order came out. And we had a couple of people, just heart-wrenching, some objection. They would take their phones, get them to unlock their phones, and they would go through their social media and photos and have some objections to a photo. And we had people detained over a photo that the agents thought was suspicious in their phone. For citizens, it is a double-edged sword, because legally you do not have to allow them to force you to unlock your device, and you do not have to allow them to search it. You are allowed to say no. And in fact, there's the Electronic Frontier Foundation has a wonderful Know Your Rights packet about what to do with devices for both citizens and non-citizens when you're crossing the border. And for some folks, it means deleting as much as possible or shipping your device and just taking a temporary phone. US citizens, you do not have to allow them to do it, and they don't have to let you out if you say no. And so what we've seen is citizens who say, no, I won't unlock my device, I won't allow you to search it, and then they just detain them for long periods of time. So I believe it's the ACLU of Southern California has now brought a lawsuit specifically on that issue to try to get some court oversight of Customs and Border Protection around what they can do to citizens who refuse to have their electronic devices searched. So it is an open question right now, legally.
So that reminds me another question. So what about that hand carry laptop that we cannot carry to those 7 countries? But because we are using Etihad or Emirates, there are other countries that we cannot take, and living in Silicon Valley, everybody has to carry a laptop. That's where they work. So what about, is something been going on for that?
Yeah, my understanding is that some of the ACLUs were looking at that issue, and it was a murky territory about. The U.S. can certainly apply some regulations and guidance to U.S. airlines. I mean, it was ludicrous. Yeah. I mean, and it looked, I don't know, I'm so biased. Certainly our interpretation of it was that it was spiteful and targeted. Whether it was illegal, I don't know.
Julia, thank you for your very inspiring presentation. My question is that there is a group I know which is called Legal Defense Fund, Muslim Legal Defense Fund. It's by Muslim lawyers. And I wonder if they have been working with you in any capacity, coordinating with you or not.
Oh, that's such a great. So we have not been working with them directly, and we would love to. I can tell you that entities that were very active at SFO were CARE on the civil rights side, Asian Law Caucus, which is Asian Americans Advancing Justice Asian Law Caucus. They're based in San Francisco. The Iranian Bar Association had lots of lawyers coming through. The American Immigration Lawyers Association, or AILA, had a lot of lawyers coming through, and then a smaller cluster of immigration service providers. And Muslim Advocates was doing a lot of the thinking about litigation, and then AROC, I think, was coordinating all of the protests. The protests were coordinated separate from the legal clinic. But I would love to be in touch. We're continuing to think about what does this big lawyer pool look like. So would love to talk to them.
So with your permission, I'll pass on the information about you to this person I know.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you again. So historically, we see that institutional constraints and problems are often resolved by institutions, organizations, and so forth, not by individuals. And so we see the civil rights movement and that they needed the NAACP, all of the organizations, to be effective, to bring about change. So first of all, let me say, it's humbling to see, as Ali mentioned, that there's so many good Americans, good people of conscience that are willing to put themselves out there to bring about that change. And we all thank you very much, first of all. So my question, though, is a follow-up to that, in that given where you see what you've seen with Trump, what you've seen with his executive orders, his intentions for other orders and legislation, what have you seen thus far with the Muslim community? You mentioned a few already. And where are we lacking, in a sense, with respect to being able to respond institutionally to the Trump administration and the new executive orders that will be coming down, legislation? So where do you see the community lacking? Where should we focus on, including coalitions, politics, legislation, and so forth?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have to say, and believe me, there was a moment in the 2 days after the New York court order where we thought this country was headed straight into a constitutional crisis. Not here, because Customs and Border Protection, although they were badly behaved, they were largely adhering to the order, but in Dulles, Dulles Airport, where there was a moment in time where they were indicating that they were not going to comply with the court order. And we thought that we might literally have two branches of military enforcement pitted against each other, the marshals on behalf of the court order and Customs and Border Protection agents on behalf of that piece of the administration, which would have literally been the two branches of government facing off with military at Dulles Airport. That did not happen, but there were moments where we were seriously sweating it. And so that brings me to the sort of our analysis, which is, right, we have three branches of government, and right now the executive branch is in my personal opinion, out of control and testing the confines of that piece of the government. And right now, the only branch that we've really seen responding to that is the courts, right? If we think about checks and balances, the checks have all come through the courts. And so we have the second branch of government, the Article 1, the Congress, House of Representatives, and the Senate, which has seemed very weak. And so we've been thinking about sort of our analytics of that, which is that piece of government was designed to be most responsive to the people, right? Elected officials. And so, this is again now sort of my personal opinion, that's where we should all be focusing. Because those are our people. We hire them and fire them. And if the executive branch, the president's office has gone rogue, we can't do much about that. We only elect that position every 4 years. But we can sure hold the congressional branch accountable. And that's where we, working in coalition, need to make sure our people, the people that we put in those offices, do their job.
So holding them accountable.
Holding them accountable. And I think that means me personally showing up on Coalition X's issues and Coalition X showing up on OneJustice's issues and thinking more broadly about who speaks on the issues. I mean, it takes work and money and time, right? But that we think is actually where the pivot's going to happen, and maybe in 2 years.
I just wanted to, do we have any other questions? I just wanted to thank all the UMA board members from Joanne Lobby to Dr. Bukbar, to our newest members, Ms. Ahmed, and Sattar as well. Thank you all sincerely, and a very gracious thank you to my mentor, Tashi here, for all the community work that you do, and having me stand here for I don't know what reason, but I'm humbled to be here, and we'll take this into a good direction. To all these youngsters who are here, from Zion to Cortez to Mustafa, we need more engagement, and I can't warn that enough. I want to fill these tables so a great speaker like Julia we can benefit from. People charge for the great advice that Julia has given us, and we cannot just discount this just because it was technically free for us, right? But let's work on it, let's implement it. And once again, Julia, we sincerely thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being here, and I want to thank you all for being here as well. So if there's any other questions, we'll be on hand. Please feel free to approach us. Thank you guys. Thanks for all.